Welcome. If you're 75 or older, first of all, congratulations. At this age, as the old saying goes, most of us are just pleased to be anywhere at all. But wouldn't it be nice if anywhere didn't always involve a heating pad or a chair that's suspiciously hard to get out of? Before we dive into the one secret exercise that's going to change your life, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Staying socially connected is actually one of the best things you can do for your brain, so consider this your first rep of the day. Now, we've all been told that walking is the gold standard for seniors. And sure, walking is great. It beats sitting on the porch counting squirrels. But if your joints are clicking more than your grandkids' computer mice, I have some news for you. There is a specific type of movement that surgeons and researchers now say is actually better than walking for keeping you out of the nursing home and on the golf course. But why is walking suddenly not enough? Is your body actually rebelling, or is it just maturing in a very loud way? 1. The 10% problem, and why walking is just the warm-up. It is a sobering reality. By the time you reach 75, the biological glitch of aging transforms the body into a vintage machine. While primary aging is the inevitable passage of time, secondary aging is the self-inflicted damage caused by a sedentary lifestyle. This distinction is crucial because while we cannot stop the clock, we can certainly influence how quickly the parts begin to rattle. The decline is mathematically aggressive. After 70, you lose roughly 10% of your muscle mass per decade. However, the more alarming phenomenon is dynapenia, the loss of muscle strength that outpaces the loss of muscle itself. While muscle disappears at 1% a year, strength can plummet by up to 4% annually. This isn't just about muscle size, it's a communication breakdown. Your nervous system loses nearly 40% of its firing power compared to your youth, meaning the signal from brain to muscle is more like a fading radio station than a high-speed fiber connection. The secret to staying strong lies in your type 2, fast-twitch muscle fibers. These are the fibers responsible for explosive power, the ability to dash for a phone, or, more importantly, to throw a leg out quickly enough to catch yourself during a stumble. Unlike the slow-twitch fibers used for endurance walking, fast-twitch fibers are use it or lose it. As we age, these fibers atrophy significantly faster than their slow-twitch counterparts. While walking is a vital health indicator, with brisk walkers statistically outliving their peers, it is merely the baseline. Walking is an aerobic, slow-twitch activity. To combat dynapenia and the glued-shut pickle jar syndrome, you must engage in resistance and power training. By challenging the muscles with weight or speed, you force the nervous system to recruit those dormant fast-twitch fibers, effectively rewiring the firing power you need to remain functional and independent. 2. The magic move, the sit to stand, your body's second heart. While walking is the baseline for longevity, clinical research suggests that the sit to stand maneuver is the one exercise that is biologically superior for those over 75. This movement, often integrated into high-intensity resistance training, HIRT, is a staple of geriatric medicine because it targets the deep architecture of the legs. Specifically, it engages the soleus, a calf muscle frequently referred to as the body's second heart. The mechanics of standing up from a chair without using your hands create a natural physiological pump. This action forces blood from the lower extremities back toward the actual heart, boosting circulation and enhancing cardiovascular stability in a way that flat-surface walking cannot match. Furthermore, the sit-to-stand is more biomechanically demanding. It requires significantly higher joint torques at the ankles, knees, and hips, forcing the nervous system to coordinate a complex chain of muscle firing. The 5-chair stand test. Medical professionals utilize the 5-chair stand test as a vital diagnostic tool for functional age. The benchmark is clear. If it takes longer than 12 to 15 seconds to stand up 5 times, the statistical risk of health complications and loss of independence increases significantly. However, the capacity for improvement remains regardless of your starting point. Even if a 1-mile walk currently takes over 20 minutes, placing you in the very poor fitness category, the body remains adaptable. Clinical trials have proven that strength training is safe and effective even for 90-year-olds in assisted living. Ultimately, we must confront a counterintuitive truth. The fear of falling is often what keeps people anchored to their chairs, yet it is that very inactivity that makes a fall inevitable. For many, heavy lifting, relative to their current ability, might actually be the safest, most protective action they take all week. 3. The heavy lifting paradox. The lift more for classics. The conventional wisdom suggests that by 75, you should treat your body like fragile porcelain. However, the groundbreaking Lift More trial flipped this narrative on its head by proving that lifting heavy is actually a fountain of youth for the skeletal system. The study focused on postmenopausal women with low bone mass, engaging them in high-intensity resistance training twice a week for just 30 minutes. Unlike walking, which provides aerobic benefits but does little for skeletal integrity, the participants performed compound movements, deadlifts, back squats, and overhead presses. The results were definitive. Their bone density actually increased. This occurs because bones require specific mechanical stress to activate osteoblasts, the specialized cells responsible for building new bone tissue. Without that shout from heavy resistance, the osteoblasts remain dormant. The power of the hard landing. Perhaps the most surprising element, the secret sauce of the Lift More protocol, was the inclusion of jumping chin-ups with drop landings. While many physical therapists advise landing softly like a ninja to protect the joints, these researchers did the opposite. Participants were instructed to land as heavily as comfortably possible. This controlled impact provides the necessary rattle to the skeletal frame, signaling the body to reinforce the bone matrix against future fractures. Important note: if you find this information valuable, please consult your healthcare provider about incorporating a strength routine. While a rigid nap schedule is comfortable, a rigid skeletal structure is the true foundation of long-term independence. Motion is lotion. You might worry about the creaking in your knees, fearing that weight-bearing exercise will wear out your joints. However, the opposite is often true. Joints are largely avascular, meaning they lack a direct blood supply. They rely on movement to circulate synovial fluid. Are you really wearing your joints out, or are they simply thirsty for the lubrication that only movement and load can provide? 4. Joint lubrication and the classics maintenance plan. A common misconception among seniors is that exercise wears out joints like tires on a highway. In reality, your joints function more like sponges. Because cartilage lacks its own dedicated blood supply, it relies entirely on synovial fluid to deliver essential nutrients and remove waste. When you engage in movement, you are effectively squeezing this biological oil into the joint space, nourishing the tissue and keeping it supple. The chemistry of your joints is equally vital. Approximately 80% of your cartilage is water. If you become dehydrated, your body prioritizes your brain and heart, stealing water from your joints to maintain core functions. This dehydration is often when the audible creaking begins. To keep the internal machinery running smoothly, the clinical gold standard is roughly 1,200 milligrams of calcium and 800 IU of vitamin D daily. The 4-pound rule. Weight management is perhaps the most direct way to preserve joint integrity. Physics dictates a 4-pound rule. For every single extra pound of body weight you carry, your knees experience 4 pounds of pressure with every step, strengthening the surrounding musculature. Specifically, your quadriceps creates a biological shock absorber that offloads this stress from the bone and cartilage. The ultimate longevity litmus test. If stretching feels slightly painful, it isn't necessarily a sign of damage. It is often a sign that your classic muscles require more frequent maintenance and oiling. However, there is a diagnostic even more revealing than the chair stand, the sitting rising test, SRT. Developed by Brazilian physician Dr. Claudio Gil Araujo, this test requires you to sit on the floor and stand back up using as little support as possible. Dr. Araujo's study found that for every point lost on a 10-point scale, there was a 21% increase in all-cause mortality. It is the ultimate measure of functional firing power, flexibility, and balance. 5. The sitting rising test, the ultimate longevity predictor. The sitting rising test, SRT, is more than just a party trick. It is a clinical window into your biological future. Dr. Claudio Gil Araujo's research revealed a startling correlation. Older adults with low scores, 0 to 4 out of 10, faced a 3.8-fold higher risk of death from natural causes compared to those with high scores. Essentially, for every point you can maintain on that 10-point scale, you are statistically extending your life. This test measures non-aerobic fitness, a vital trifecta of muscle power, flexibility, and balance. It determines if you have the firing power to navigate the physical world. If the idea of sitting on the floor feels like a permanent relocation, do not panic. The body remains plastic well into the 10th decade. Even 95-year-olds have successfully improved their SRT scores by starting with assisted movements and gradually shedding the need for support. Training your brakes. To avoid becoming what one retirement home director colorfully called a yard sale statistic, a reference to the scattered belongings and limbs following a bad tumble, you must train your brakes. Falling is often a failure of eccentric strength, which is the ability of your muscles to lengthen under tension. This is how you decelerate your body weight. The power of low oxygen training. The secret to building this power without gasping for air is high-load, low-repetition training. While walking requires constant oxygen, aerobic, building explosive power and braking strength can be done in short, intense bursts that require less total oxygen but recruit those critical fast-twitch fibers. By focusing on the down phase of a movement, like sitting down into a chair very slowly, you are training the neurological brakes that prevent a trip from becoming a fall. 6. The braking system, eccentric training and balance. While the fear of falling is the most common anxiety for those over 75, the clinical reality is that inactivity is a far greater risk factor than the floor itself. To effectively prevent a tumble, you must train your eccentric strength, the lowering phase of a movement. Think of this as your body's internal braking system. When you slowly lower yourself into a chair, you are reinforcing the exact neurological pathways and muscle fibers required to stay steady and arrest your momentum when you feel a trip coming on. Balance is not a fixed trait. It is a use it or lose it skill that requires constant recalibration. You can measure and improve your stability using the hierarchy of stability. Level 1. Stand with your feet apart for 30 seconds. Level 2. Stand with your feet touching, narrow base. Level 3. Stand on one foot, the ultimate litmus test. Research indicates that if you can hold a one-legged stance for 10 seconds, your risk for premature death is significantly lower. If you struggle, do not be discouraged. Practicing in a corner or near a sturdy counter for safety will allow your nervous system to adapt and rewire your stability. It is vital to remember that a fall is not a final sentence. With targeted resistance training, many seniors transition from using a cane back to unassisted walking. The body's capacity for repair is remarkable, provided it is given the correct mechanical signals. But this journey isn't purely physical. While we focus on the rattling parts of our biological vintage car, there is a cognitive silver lining. Is the secret to staying young just about muscle and bone, or is your brain actually reaching a new peak of wisdom and pattern recognition right now? 7. The happy brain, and why seniors are winning at life. While we often focus on the physical glitches of aging, the data suggests that your 8th decade is a psychological golden age. A Gallup poll reveals a startling contrast. 70% of people over 65 report feeling relaxed most of the time, compared to a mere 41% of 20-somethings. This is the U-bend of happiness. You are officially more emotionally resilient and content than the young adults striving to find their way. Your brain at 80 is a cognitive marvel. Through decades of experience, you have built cognitive resilience. Regular physical activity acts as the ultimate maintenance tool for this resilience, strengthening the neural connections that ward off dementia and combat late-life depression. The classic body, superior by design. When you view your body as a vintage car, the statistics are truly impressive. Heart power. By age 80, your heart has beaten approximately 3.3 billion times without a single vacation. Immune wisdom. You suffer fewer colds than children because your immune system is a vast library, containing blueprints to fight thousands of viruses that younger generations haven't encountered yet. The gut-brain axis, your second brain, the enteric nervous system in your gut, actually produces 95% of your body's serotonin, the hormone responsible for happiness. The cool factor: your sweat glands shrink as you age, meaning you physically sweat less and are officially less stinky than a hormone-driven teenager. As George Burns famously quipped, "At my age, I'm just pleased to be anywhere." But to ensure you can stay anywhere independently, you must feed the machine. While we've discussed the importance of mechanical stress and movement, there is a specific nutritional fuel required to stop the biological clock of muscle loss. 8. Protein, leucine, and the preservative myth. To transform your daily walk from a simple baseline into a true longevity strategy, you must address the nutritional fuel required for muscle repair. The critical ingredient is leucine-rich protein, found in high concentrations in chicken, fish, beans, and eggs. As we age, we encounter a hurdle known as anabolic resistance. This means your biological machinery is more stubborn than it was in your 20s. It requires a louder signal to trigger muscle growth. To overcome this resistance and actually build tissue, you need a higher protein intake, specifically 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein for every kilogram of body weight. Without this specific fuel, the mechanical stress from your exercises won't have the raw materials needed to rebuild your vintage parts. The real preservatives. Forget the chemical preservatives in processed foods. Your body requires biological preservatives to maintain its classic status. Vitamin K. Found in leafy greens, this is the essential glue for bone health. Vitamin C. The primary contractor for tissue repair and collagen production. Omega-3 fatty acids. Critical for extinguishing the cellular fire of inflammation that makes joints feel stiff and painful. Think of your third act as a blockbuster movie. You deserve the best catering on set to keep the lead actor, you, in peak condition. Starting safely. The term high intensity often sounds intimidating, but in a clinical setting, it simply means challenging for your current level. You don't need to join a CrossFit gym to see results. Even for those who would much prefer a nap to a workout, the body responds remarkably well to a structured 12-week progression. By starting with supported movements, like using a countertop for balance, you can safely increase the intensity without risking a trip to the ER. 9. The 12-week Better Than Walking Roadmap. You don't need a fancy gym membership, expensive spandex, or heavy machinery to rewrite your biological narrative. In fact, your kitchen is the perfect training ground. The CDC's Growing Stronger program highlights a simple, low-barrier 12-week progression designed to move you from the couch to a state of functional power without the intimidation factor. The journey begins not with a lift, but with a mindset shift. Days 1 to 5. Contemplation. This phase is purely mental. It's about realizing that while walking is a fantastic baseline, strength is your ultimate ticket to long-term independence and safety. Days 6 to 10. Preparation. Gather your equipment. You don't need dumbbells. A couple of soup cans or water bottles provide enough resistance to start signaling those dormant muscle fibers. Days 11 to 12. Action. Start small. Just 10 to 15 minutes of focused movement is enough to begin the rewiring process. The living room circuit. A simple, effective circuit can be performed while you go about your daily routine. Chair squats. Sit down and stand up 10 times without using your hands. Wall push-ups. Stand facing a wall and push away to build essential upper body strength. Calf raises. Perform these while waiting for the tea to boil to engage the second heart in your legs. Dead bug. Lie on your back and move opposite arms and legs. It's a safe, effective way to stabilize your core. The secret to success is progressive overload. Your muscles are smart. If you do the same 10 reps every day, they will eventually stop growing. Once an exercise feels easy, you must challenge the system, either by adding more weight, a heavier soup can, or increasing the repetitions. If you don't challenge the muscle, you don't trigger the osteoblasts and fast twitch fibers. In the end, aging gracefully is just a polite way of saying we're looking more like a well-loved classic But aging strongly is how you ensure you can still drive the car. While walking is your vital baseline, the sit-to-stand is your functional superpower. It's the difference between needing a hand and being the one who lends one. If this insight into your biological glitch was helpful, share it with a friend. A secret shared among friends is always safe, mostly because we might forget it, but also because we're truly stronger together. Before you go, let's feed the machine. Grab a glass of water to oil those sponge joints, perform 5 chair stands, and decide that today is the day you stop declining and start rewiring. Age isn't a retreat, it's a new stage of strength. See you in the next video.